You might have read viewers that serotonin is our happy hormone. You might have heard it before, but what exactly does it do? Does it only keep us happy? So a lot of the digestive system processes are controlled by serotonin. Serotonin also regulates sleep. But how many people know that melatonin requires serotonin? Melatonin is made from serotonin. But if we think of the different functions that serotonin is doing, it is impacting so many different aspects of our life, right from when we wake up to when we go to sleep. Serotonin is helping us with peristalsis. It is helping the food go down the digestive tract during the day. But when the sun sets, serotonin is converted to melatonin. And do you know what melatonin does? So, what is happening in the gut is not just happening in the gut. Yes, you will get this chemical happiness in a bottle, you will get pills of happiness in a bottle, but what are they going to do to your overall health? Hello, everyone. Welcome to this super exciting episode of the Microbiome Superhero Podcast. So, today, this is the third episode of the neurotransmitter series. We have done two in the past. I hope you have watched both of those. So, today, we are going to focus on something very, very interesting, which is the neurotransmitter serotonin, our happiness hormone. And here I have Sujata Gokhale, my co-host, along with me, who is also the co-founder of our company, Arnagen Next Solutions. Welcome, Sujata.
Thank you, Rashmi, for the introduction. Hello, viewers, and welcome to our part three of the podcast on neurotransmitters. It's getting interesting as we go. And if you have not seen our previous podcast, please find the link in the description below. So, just bringing a brief on what the last two podcasts covered. We had the human microbiota composed of various species that is essential for digestion, vitamin synthesis, and metabolism. We don't stop there. A balanced microbiota is crucial for hemostasis, and its imbalance can cause illnesses like immune issue and neuropsychiatric disorders. That's where the neurotransmitters come in for us. The gut hosts the greatest diversity of these microorganisms. So, recent evidences have actually highlighted the significant role of gut microbiota in the pathophysiology of multiple diseases, including those affecting the brain via the gut brain axis. The gut brain axis is a complex communication system linking the gut and brain through neural, immunological, and chemical signaling pathways, with the vagus nerve being the key direct pathway. That means the microbes in the gut are responsible for the synthesis of various neurotransmitters. Today, we are going to talk about serotonin, or the happy hormone. So, Rashmi, what exactly is the serotonin or happy hormone, and does it really make us happy? How important is it in our life?
Yes, so the plot thickens. We are diving deeper and deeper into this neurotransmitter story. And it
Yes.
is amazing when we talk about serotonin and it being our happiness hormone. You might have read viewers that serotonin is our happy hormone. You might have heard it before. But what exactly does it do? Does it only keep us happy? When we feel happy, what exactly is happening to the serotonin? Where is it made? So, serotonin is made in two places. So the majority of it is made either in the brain by our own cells or it is made in the gut. So 90 to 95% of the serotonin that also makes us happy is made in our gut. And this is made by the gut microbiome, the germs that are present in our gut. They really push our intestinal cells a lot to make serotonin. So the enterochromaffin cells are making serotonin in our intestine, the large intestine. But there's a very limited rate limiting step to the serotonin synthesis, how much serotonin we can make on our own. So the gut microbes actually push it to a great extent. They help us make an immense amount of the serotonin. And that is what makes us happy. So this is the first thing that it does. Most people know about it, that it is this happiness hormone. But there are so many other important things that serotonin is doing in addition. So we will see later on how all of this is linked because serotonin helps us in digesting the food that we eat. It helps us in the peristalsis of the digestive system. So by peristalsis, what do I mean? When we eat our food, it has to travel through the digestive tract. So it doesn't just passively travel, it is actively pushed down. So this process of pushing down the food or anything that we gulp is called peristalsis. So the digestive system has to actively push the food down and then it is digested in this process. So this is regulated by serotonin. So I'll come to one very interesting point about that shortly. The other thing is that it does is when food actually reaches our intestine, it helps us digest the food. It is controlling the speed of how the food is going. It is communicating with the mucus. It is helping us absorb nutrients from the food that we eat. So a lot of the digestive system processes are controlled by serotonin. Serotonin also regulates sleep. Now, coming to that, this is where I wanted to mention the previous point of peristalsis. When we say that serotonin controls sleep, do you know how interesting it is that we know melatonin is the sleep hormone? But how many people know that melatonin requires serotonin? Melatonin is made from serotonin. So the beauty about this whole thing, about the peristalsis thing I told you about, is that serotonin is helping us with peristalsis. It is helping the food go down the digestive tract during the day. But when the sun sets, serotonin is converted to melatonin. And do you know what melatonin does? It slows down the peristalsis. In addition to making us, sleepy, it is also slowing down how food passes through the digestive system. What a beautiful evolution this is, that our happiness hormone is not just controlling how happy we feel, it is controlling how food passes through our digestive tract. And when the sun sets, it makes something else, which is melatonin, which helps us slow it down. That's when we are supposed to slow down eating, stop eating, and then go to sleep. This is the beauty of serotonin. So these are just a few functions that I'm talking about. There are many more things that it impacts our mood. It helps us be, happy and calm. So it has many other roles to do. It regulates the mood. It, as I said, controls how food is moving through the digestive system. It also controls our appetite, the satiety, the feeling of fullness. So that also happens through serotonin. Learning and memory is also regulated by serotonin. The cognitive function, it's because it's a feel good chemical, it really helps in cognition, learning, memory. So these are some of the things that serotonin is doing on a normal basis. There are many more things, but just for the sake of simplicity, I mentioned very few of those. So it's really interesting if we
Very
think of how even the food is absorbed. We are digesting our food, but can we absorb it? Absorption also requires serotonin. So these are some of the things. Then it is also controlling our blood pressure by changing how the blood vessels are, are they dilated or not dilated. So that is something that serotonin is also controlling. So those are some of the major functions of serotonin. Now, if we think of how important it is made by our brain and it is made in our gut. So our gut has 90% of our peripheral nervous system or enteric nervous system. It is called ENS. So that is our second brain. Just like we have feelings in our main brain, the first brain, we have feelings in the second brain as well. The only difference is that the brain, our main brain, has a language to communicate. Our gut or the gut feelings do not have the same language. They communicate in just feelings. So that's why we have these gut feelings, and happiness is one of them. So we feel that kind of happiness not just in the brain, but also in the gut. So it is very interesting how those feelings are different and nuanced. Now, if you think of what happens in the serotonin in our brain, for example, if we exercise, if a person goes for a run or does exercise, the person gets a runner's high. We feel that high. There's a sense of happiness, but it's very sudden, very sharp. So that's the serotonin that is made in the brain. But if we think about a stable feeling of happiness, that comes from the serotonin in our gut. So that is the difference between these two serotonins, and it's very, very important.
Very interesting information there. Whoever thought we would be happy through our stomach?
Yes.
So, with 90% of serotonin being developed there, or synthesized there, what do you think would be the impact if we did not make sufficient serotonin? So,
Yes, that's a very important question. Now we know that serotonin is made in our brain by our body, but a lot of it is also made by the gut microbiome with in collaboration with our intestinal cells, and we don't think of what would happen if it is not there. But if we think of the different functions that serotonin is doing, it is impacting so many different aspects of our life, right from when we wake up to when we go to sleep. When it is not there, when we have low levels, and when there is excess, that is also a problem. So when we have very low levels of serotonin, it has been linked to disorders in all of these functions that I just talked about. So you can think about anxiety, depression. So when people are depressed, it is linked to low levels of serotonin. They have been found to be low in people who are depressed. And the thing that happens here is that people don't feel like doing anything. There's a sense of purpose that is lost in life. They just don't want to do anything. They don't feel like doing any activity when this happens. And the other thing is that it makes people think of there's a lot of sadness, hopelessness in their lives. And it can lead to whatever people enjoyed at one point of time, they stop enjoying the same things. There is fatigue, there is a change in appetite, because I said that it also impacts satiety, or how we are feeling full after eating. So it impacts appetite. Then it is also going to impact how we sleep, because if there are low levels of serotonin, if serotonin is not enough to perform the basic functions, then food is not going to pass through our digestive system efficiently. And when we are supposed to sleep in the evening, not enough melatonin will be made. So that is something that happens in people who are depressed, that there are recurrent thoughts of even death or suicide in such cases. Then we can talk about anxiety. Again, anxiety also has been shown to be linked to low serotonin. There are studies that have shown. So it can cause excessive worrying. It can cause a feeling of restlessness. It can cause feelings of panic. Of course, there are other neurotransmitters involved in this. So it's a combination of all of these. It's not just, we cannot take anything in isolation here. We are going to look at the other neurotransmitters that impact anxiety, depression. So it's not a one size fit all. Then I talked about the digestion, where it controls how food is flowing through our digestive tract, how it is digested, and how the nutrients are absorbed. So there are many different things that are being impacted by serotonin. So when serotonin is not enough, not only does food not pass as efficiently or as fast as it should, so it can lead to issues like constipation. Food is not traveling as fast as it should. It stays in the digestive system. It is not digested properly. It is not absorbed properly. So that can lead to digestion issues like constipation. It can lead to even diarrhea. It can lead to a complete imbalance in the entire signaling of the gut. And you can only imagine how we can absorb our nutrients if there is very low serotonin. Then, when I talk about sleep, now because of melatonin being lacking, low serotonin is going to mean low melatonin levels. So, people cannot sleep. It causes insomnia, it causes sleep disturbances, it can cause, the different stages of sleep to be completely disturbed, because we know that we need the gut serotonin also for that. If we look at what else can happen, it can lead to cognitive decline. Now, whatever is happening in the gut doesn't just stay there. So we might think that, oh, our brain is still making serotonin, but the one that is made in the gut is very, very important, because we talked about the vagus nerve in the previous episode. So when we do not have enough serotonin made in the gut, we don't have enough serotonin in our bloodstream. We don't have enough communicating with that information highway or the vagus nerve talking to our brain. So this is what happens when serotonin levels are low. These are some of the most common problems that we can think of.
and
There is another extreme. Sorry, please go ahead.
no, no, no. These are very common issues now with the generation that we are looking at, especially anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, And the way you put it, Rashmi, it sounds like serotonin is very, very important to actually regulate our circadian rhythm, because in the morning it is helping us with, the food motility and things, and in the evening melatonin is actually generated to sort of calm off our activities and go to sleep. So it kind of balances, and we are eating at different hours and things like that. So naturally I mean, with the kind of information that you're giving, that serotonin, when not in equal good quantities, could lead to all this, or maybe at quantities which are, happening at the wrong time of the day, when, they were supposed to occur at certain times and they are not happening. What if serotonin was, being developed at melatonin times, because of the food we are eating at that time, that kind of imbalance, untimely foods that we eat, because of our Swiggy culture, that we can order food at any time. So probably serotonin and melatonin are confused. What has to go first there? I'm sorry, it may be a little out of the way question, but yes, Rashmi, it's very interesting to know why serotonin is so important. I think you were talking about some more factors on that. Yes, why it is.
Yes. So I was just saying that, we think about all of these in isolation. Now, when, just like you said, circadian rhythm, when we talk about circadian rhythm, we tend to think of it in isolation, that, oh, melatonin is required for sleep. So let's take melatonin or something like that. That, yes, melatonin synthesis is important. But where does it come from? It comes from serotonin. It comes from other precursors like tryptophan, the component that is used by our body to make serotonin. Then it is converted to melatonin. So, and then we need all of the other neurotransmitters also. It's a combination of all of these that are, making all of the functions happen in our body. So when we talk about peristalsis, it is very clear that when we talk about any diseases, for example, IBS or IBD, or even in irritable bowel syndrome, there's IBS with constipation, there's IBS with diarrhea. There are different things that are happening. So what is happening in the gut is not just happening in the gut. There are things that serotonin is doing so many other things. So if you think of anybody having IBS, for example, if that person has low serotonin levels, not only is it going to impact how food is passing through the digestive system, how food is being digested, how nutrients are being absorbed, that leads to a lot of different issues in the body. That leads to weight gain, that leads to cognitive decline, that leads to depression. So if you think of a person suffering from IBS, is it only a digestive issue? This happiness hormone is impacting all aspects of life, and there's a treatment that it needs to be considered in a holistic view, that it is not just impacting how food is passing. It's not just a gastric disorder, it is impacting mental health as well. It is impacting the entire life. And I'm only talking about one hormone again in isolation. So there are a
Yes.
lot of factors that we need to combine here. Then if we look at the other extreme, which I said, that serotonin can also be very high. It's not just low serotonin levels that are dangerous, even very high serotonin levels can cause something. So one good example of that is, a lot of studies have shown that about 25 to 30% of individuals that who are autistic, who have any of the autistic spectrum disorders, have very high serotonin levels. So if these very high serotonin levels in the gut are going to the bloodstream, they are also impacting how food is passing. Just think of how fast the peristalsis will happen if there is, very high serotonin. What will happen to the digestion? What will happen to how nutrients are absorbed? What will happen to their mental health if there is too much serotonin? It can also cause serotonin toxicity. So those are some of the things that are seen in autistic individuals. Of course, there are other conditions. There are some cancers also that where there are very high serotonin levels. So it is a balance of how much serotonin we have. And then sleep disturbances, when children have very high serotonin, they are so hyperactive. Their brain is so over excited. The neurons are hyper excitable in this case. So these are some of the things that are happening when serotonin is imbalanced.
That's really amazing, Rashmi. We only look at serotonin as the happy hormone, but
Yes.
thinking of the other side of the serotonin production, it's really, frightening to a certain extent. If high levels of serotonin, what they can do to you. So it's very actually the way you've explained it, and it's very clear how important it is for uh, us to have serotonin for good physical and mental health, wellness. But in present times, like you said, our food habits have changed, our circadian rhythm have changed. We eat at odd times, so naturally we go into that phase of anxiety, panic, depression, and things like that. And physical habits also, exercising habits have also gone. They are not the way we used to exercise before. More of us are on digital devices. So now these sleep patterns are not happening because of that. Then we had all these mental issues. So over the counter prescription of serotonin happens, because you take, even for that matter, even melatonin is available over the counter. Do you think it's good to do that? And does
Yes,
money
that's a
really
very
buy
interesting question.
happiness?
Yeah, I cannot wait to answer this because I always say that if we think of this, can money buy happiness? Well, we can say that money can buy happiness because the happiness hormone is actually available commercially. So if we just think of it in very simplistic terms, that yes, money can buy happiness. Is that happiness real? Is it going to last? So those are some of the things that are, and what is it going to cause? Yes, you will get this chemical happiness in a bottle. You will get pills of happiness in a bottle, but what are they going to do to your overall health? It's something that people definitely need to consider. So people who have anxiety, depression, or other things are given these prescriptions of 5-HT, which is serotonin basically, 5-hydroxytryptamine, and this is available commercially. People take that for relieving their symptoms. So with prescription for a short while, it won't be that harmful. But the thing that happens here is that because it is so available easily, it is commercially available, people think that, oh, this is how I'm going to feel happier, because it is the happiness hormone. It is even available on Amazon or other marketplaces very easily. But what ends up happening is it has a lot of side effects. It, because it is not just a happiness hormone, it is going to cause a lot of side effects. One of the most dangerous side effects that I found in one of the scientific publications is that it can actually disrupt the blood brain barrier, and that's a very serious thing, because the blood brain barrier is something that protects or prevents a lot of things from our body from going to the brain. The brain is very selective because it's one of the most expensive organs, like we talked about in the first episode. There has to be a very strong selectivity in what goes to the brain. So we have a filter that prevents a lot of proteins, a lot of even nutrients from going to the brain. When this blood brain barrier is disrupted, that's a very dangerous situation. And hydroxytryptamine 5-HT, the happiness hormone that is commercially available, when taken, can cause a disruption in the blood brain barrier. That is one of the biggest red flags that I've seen. So
Oh,
if we talk about
it's,
the other, if we talk
it's
about,
very
yeah,
frightening to hear
it
that.
is a
Yes,
frightening side
because
effect. Yes,
yes,
definitely.
side effect that it can cross the blood-brain barrier, break the blood-brain barrier, and toxicity entering our brain, the ones which are not
Yes.
required, can cause side effects which we are not even aware of. So this
Yes.
is
So
so.
there can be a lot of edema formation. There can be swelling in the brain. There can be neurotoxicity when we take 5-HT or 5-HTP as it is called. So there is a regional cerebral flow disturbance, blood flow disturbance in the, so that is happening in the brain. There are behavioral disturbances. There's intolerance. There is abnormal mental function. So that can be a side effect of taking all of this. So there are many things that can happen when this is taken, and it has a role in oxidative stress. It has a role in nitric oxide breakdown. So there are many side effects. I'm not saying that it should not be taken at all. With prescription, of course, it should be taken with the guidance of a doctor, but taking it on your own is something that is, definitely not advisable, because we are talking about functions that range from memory to mood to, even how we feel pain, how we are
Okay.
learning things. So if we have excessive 5-HT, if it is taken for long periods of time or taken when not required, then it can cause a lot of different side effects. And the other scary part about this is that, even people take melatonin supplements. So
Yes.
while melatonin might temporarily help people sleep, it is not solving the issue of low serotonin levels. Why is serotonin low? Because the brain is not producing it, because the gut microbiome is not producing it, because there is no gut microbiome equipped to produce it. So the best thing to do is to fix the gut microbiome so that it can start producing serotonin. Because once we start taking supplements like this, it tells our body, it tells our gut microbiome that they can stop doing that thing.
Oh,
So that is
okay.
the very scary part. Oh, it is chemically available artificially, so you can stop producing it basically. So why would the body produce it?
Hmm.
So
Very
it's
logical. Right.
negative for the gut microbiome. It is negative signaling for our own body that if we are getting something so easily, why should our body bother to produce it?
Very right. And probably it sends the wrong type of signals because since they are the bidirectional signaling
It is a
pathways,
bidirectional signal. Yes,
saying that yes, we have reached our satiety levels of serotonin. I mean, not satiety, the required levels of serotonin. So we don't need more production of serotonin. So that's a signal that goes. I mean, it's a miscommunication because those supplements have actually altered our serotonin levels. So
yes,
consequently, they would even impact our melatonin. That means our sleep and the regulatory other
yes. There would
regulatory.
be excessive melatonin, as you said, because of this.
Yes.
So it is going to impact how the sleep patterns are after that. And as you rightly said, serotonin or anything that we might be taking, it is not in isolation. There are precursors that there are things before that, there are things after that, and we need the entire biochemical pathway to be functioning in our body. So if we think of
Right.
how to get serotonin naturally instead, there's tryptophan, which is an amino acid that is a precursor of serotonin and then melatonin. So
Yes,
tryptophan is
that is
very, very important.
coming to Rashmi, is how is serotonin actually developed in our body, in our gut? Actually, you mentioned the name tryptophan, and I was curious to know how that is actually being developed in our gut, and where we get those 90% of serotonin in our body. I mean, and
Yes,
how
so
we get.
for that, we need tryptophan. That's a very essential amino acid that is used to make serotonin and then subsequently melatonin. So we need really good sources of tryptophan in our diet. That's why we need to be very mindful of what we eat. We always say that unless we have a source of tryptophan in our diet, we are not going to get any serotonin. Eating junk food is not going to give us any tryptophan. So if we think of high fiber diet, rich in plant based foods, like we always talk, a rainbow diet. But coming specifically to foods that are richer in tryptophan, these are, turkey is very rich, tofu is rich in tryptophan, milk is amazing in tryptophan, eggs. So these are some of the things. That's why I think a lot of people say that, you should drink milk before sleeping because that tryptophan is converted to serotonin to melatonin. And that's
Yes.
how it helps us sleep. But even during the day, if we consume milk products, they are going to give us enough tryptophan so that we have enough serotonin. So the two things here are that we should have tryptophan, which is the source or precursor of serotonin, and we should have a healthy gut health or the gut microbiome. Without that, even tryptophan is not going to be converted to serotonin. So for
So that
gut health, you have to do. We have said that in the previous podcast. What do you need to do to improve your gut health? What do you need to do to improve your gut microbiome? It's very, very simple. Just follow those steps. It's going to help improve the gut microbiome and help keep you happy. So one of my French friends actually told me a few years ago, we were discussing something about gut health, and he mentioned that, do you know why people used to ask how is it going? They were actually talking about gut health because people had so many different gut issues. So it was very common to ask people how their gut was doing. I was very
Wow.
amused to hear that. But if we think about how the gut is functioning, if our peristalsis is normal, if the food is passing at a normal rate, if it's getting digested well, absorbed well, why won't we be happy? Because there is enough serotonin in our body. Happiness and the gut are so directly linked. Our mood is so directly linked to that.
Connected to the serotonin. That's why probably we have emojis when we, where we show that if you're constipated, your face is, or the emotions that you're going to emote there are not ones which are very happy. So it does really make an impact on your mood. And knowing that, we can safely say that we don't need to
Yes, yes. So
buy.
that is the most interesting part, that if we think of any of the serious chronic diseases like IBS, like even autism, there are different things that are happening. It's not just one thing, that it's not just a digestive issue. There's a sensory overload. There's a social isolation in autism. People, those individuals do not want to be very social. They have very different skills in particular directions, and in some others, they are lacking in other directions like social skills or even communication. So there are very serious differences or significant differences in what is happening. And it is on so many different levels that it is acting together. This is why it is important to know what the happiness hormone is actually doing. So
Yes.
it is important. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to what is happening in your gut, because gut
It
feelings are
is.
important.
Gut feelings are actually very, very important. They set your mood and tone, and maybe much more with all the diseases that they can keep you away from. And as we discussed, I don't think money can buy happiness. Happiness is just to be, created and developed and, maintained by you with your own daily schedule of exercise. So eat well, exercise well, and have a good, happy hormone. That's all I wanted to say on happiness. Happiness is nothing but eat well, exercise well, right, Rashmi?
Yes. Thank you so much, Sujata. You're right.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you so much.
So, viewers, if you thought money can buy happiness, well, it can buy the chemical that mimics happiness, but happiness has to be made by our brain, by our gut. And this happy hormone called serotonin is very much in your control. So, do watch this podcast, do watch the subsequent ones about the other neurotransmitters, because we are going to be focusing on many other interesting ones that impact your life. Stay tuned for more.